In this video, we're demonstrating how you can make your own custom tablet charging stand in wood. Now, starting off, let's go through some of the things that you're going to need. You're going to need a method for measuring, like a measuring tape, some screwdrivers, drill bits, a hand drill or a pillar drill, different pieces of wood, and screws and nails. You're also going to need a hammer and your pencils for marking out. Once you've got your wood and your tools together, the first stage in making your custom charging station is to make a cardboard template. Now, devices, tablets, they're expensive and we don't want to go and damage them, so I would suggest making a cardboard template as the first part of the process. So to do this, get yourself some cardboard, mark around it using some pencil. Now after that, we're going to mark out our custom designs. We've got two charging stations that we're making. One we have themed on bicycles and cycling, so we've got a bicycle theme shape to go on the top. And the other we've themed around horse riding and horses, so we mark out our horse on the piece of wood that we've selected. Same with the process we normally use, mark it out on the wood using carbon paper. If you want to, though, as we always say, you can stick the design on using glue. Once we've marked out our design on the wood, we then proceed with cutting out our cardboard templates, and then this will be used to get all of our measurements correct for. Now remember, with different devices, you're going to have different sizes, different measurements. After you've finished cutting out your cardboard templates, we can then use it to mark out our charging station on the wood itself. So the first thing we demonstrate is to mark on the backing boards. Now what we've done with this, we've used the piece of wood that we're going to use for our base, put the cardboard template on top, mark around, and this will give us the right size for the backing board for our charging station. Next, we mark out the sides, the top, and then onto the bottom as well. So we mark all the different parts that will create the surround of our charging station. The final part of marking out is to mark our two angle pieces that will allow our charging station to stand at the right angle. We've angled it around about 60 degrees, so if you're going to make the same template as ourselves, those two pieces that make the stand, they're around about a 60-degree angle. Now that we've finished marking everything out on the wood itself, we move in next door and begin working with our saw. Another part of this process, another piece of equipment you'll need is access to a saw. This can be a hand saw, that's a little bit more challenging, or a circular saw, a bandsaw, some form of saw to be able to cut everything out. So you cut out your backboards, your two pieces to get everything to stand up, your side pieces, your top and your bottom. Now to make it custom, we're using that design, a bicycle and a horse. So we take that little piece of wood and we drill any holes that are required for doing the pierce work. So in the case of the bike, we've got those 3 holes that need drilling. In the horse design, we don't have any pierce work to do, so we're straight on to using our scroll saw. Get the designs on the scroll saw itself and cut them out. So we're starting off with our internal work, doing that pierce work, and then once we've completed that, we cut the surround of our bicycle shape, and then afterwards we cut out our horse shape. The nice thing though with a project like this, you can adapt it to cater for all sorts of different interests and all sorts of different themes. So these two, we're doing a horse and a bike, but yeah, whatever your interest is, you can create your charging station in that particular theme. So once we've finished with the cutting out on the scroll saw, we then do a little bit of work using the hand tools. So we're going across and cutting out using the hand gouges just to give a little bit more detail and a little bit more interest to the design itself. Moving on then to our horse theme, and as we mentioned, we don't need to do any internal cuts with our horse, so we start off on the scroll saw cutting out our horse shape. So same as with the bicycle, we cut all around the outside and this gives us our basic form. For those of you who are not interested in the hand carving, that will be the end of the custom element. If you want to have a go at doing some hand carving though, that is really where you can add an extra element to the work that you do. Now the wood that we've used, in this case we've used some juniper, lovely timber to carve, beautiful perfume as well that you get from that one. The wood we've used for the surrounds, nothing particularly special. We've used pine for the outsides as a lighter wood, and then we've used a piece of mahogany as the backing boards. But again, this can be adapted. You can use whatever woods, whatever colours you want to use. Once you finish working on your custom designs, we then turn our attention towards the finished look of our custom charging stand. Now we're working here on a P150 belt, so we sand all the different parts of the design. If you haven't got access to a belt sander, don't worry, you can use a hand sander and sand it all out nice and smooth. It's more time consuming, it's more challenging, but it can also be more rewarding. Once we finish sanding everything, we then put our charging station together. Now to start off, we work on the bottom. So we drill 2 holes in our backing boards, line up where we're going to put our bottom piece and screw it into position. Some of the things you may notice, we make sure that the screw hole is bigger than the screw shank itself, and we also countersink, so the screw goes in nice and flush with the backing board for a better quality finish. Onto the side pieces of our charging station, and to attach these we're going to use a pin hammer and 2 little pins. So we start off again by measuring out the positions that we want, use a spike just to put a little indent ready for the pins. We then give a couple of little taps on the tip of the pin just to blunt it to reduce the chances of splitting the other pieces of wood. Add a little bit of glue and then pin the side into place. On to the top piece. Once again, measure it out. Use that spike to put 2 little indents for the position. Blunt off the tip of your 2 pins and then tap them into place. Again, we put a little bit of glue and that will help to keep our charging station, keeps it in place a little bit more strongly. Now then, the final bit to putting together the frame for our charging station is to add our 2 pieces on the back. So measure it all out again, drill 2 holes in that backing boards. Once you've selected the correct position, countersink it and then drill both of those backing pieces into the correct position. As you can see, with those 2 backing pieces that gets our charging station at the right angle, we line it up with the 2 screw holes, mark it right in the center. Again, use that spike, useful piece of equipment to make sure that you get the screw into the right place. So there we go, we put together our charging station. The 2 backing pieces to get the right angle, the backing boards, the top, the sides and the bottom. The next step is to think about our finish and the custom aspects of the charging station. So we make a thin strip of wood to go along the top. The purpose of this is to hold our custom design in place. So we measure out the position that we want our bike in, add a little bit of super glue and stick it roughly in the centre of the design. As you can see, this was a little bit of an afterthought, but we decided that it would be nice to add a few extra elements to our charging station. So to keep in with our horse theme, we cut out a few small horseshoes to go with that horse design. And our bike design, we thought it would be nice to add a couple of medals. So we're on our scroll saw, we cut out those individual designs. We then move across onto the bench and we hand carve everything out just to give it another level, add a few extra bits of detail on it. So our medals for our cyclist, we've created sort of rosettes with the first on them, so for our champion cyclists. And our horseshoes, we'll actually use a nail just to do the little indents. We use that backing piece to stick the designs onto using super glue. So we want our horse roughly in the centre, our horseshoes either side, and it's the same then for our bike design with those rosettes, one either side of our racing bike. Now that we have everything together, there are a few other stages that we need to think about. So because it's a charging station, we need a way of getting the charging cable into the design itself. This is done by drilling a hole in one of the sides. As you can see, the cable fits through and goes into our device. We're now really in the final stages. So what we do, we sand everything down, just taking off any of the sharp edges, and add 3 coats of shellac sanding sealer. The first coat, that usually raises the grain, so we rub it back down using a finishing sandpaper, add a second coat, rub it down again, and a third coat of shellac usually brings our design up to a good finish. There you go, those are our custom charging stands in woods. Let us know in the comments section, what design would you include in your custom stands? A useful product, ideal for charging your device or watching us on YouTube. Thank you again for watching, and as always, we'll be back again soon with more videos.